Hi, my name is Ralph Klishevich. I'm here with Matt Alden. This is episode number 2 on creativity. I'm really excited to have Matt over here because he's kind of like me. There's a lot of parallel in that he is a writer, filmmaker, and a musician. And in fact, I think he got his start just like me, being a musician, and sort of followed the path of these other creative outlets.
Yeah.
So introduce yourself.
Yeah, Matt Alden. So I think really the story behind all the filmmaking and the cameras is being a drummer. And so I wanted to be a YouTube drummer, just like, you know, some of the famous YouTube drummers that do like covers to popular songs. And so they would go into the studio and get like a videography crew. And so I did that. I took, so basically you need a videographer and you need a producer. So went in and did that, and it was just the time of my life. It went really well. And I got to do like, a drum solo and then 3 covers. And that kind of gave me a taste. And then from there, it gave me the confidence to reform my high school band. So I was in a few bands, so I was kind of back in the band process, making music. And then I really, as a musician, just finishing an album, EP, making different styles of music for all these music videos that I was writing scripts for that. So that's kind of how I got started as a writer. And I always loved film and dialogue. And finally I saw an opportunity, since I have this, this band and this network of people, creative people, why not do a short film? So I made a short film called Assassin League, and that did better than I expected when I released it. Released it during the pandemic, and it got 41 selections all around the world. Some really big festivals, Top Shorts, Beijing International Film Festival, Sweden, Paris International, and then also got 14 awards, 2 Best Debut Films, a few Best Actors, special mentions. And yeah, from there, that project went so well that I was like, let's do another film, and that turned into a feature, which is what we're finishing up right now.
So let me ask you this. So you write, you produce all your films, you sort of also seek for the music for the film. Tell me about that sort of the creative process for your films.
Yeah. So I wrote the film. It's all original idea. I was inspired by making something, fun, something that my 14-year-old self would really enjoy. So obviously, and I needed to convince a group of guys to do this. So, my friends and then my creative team of musicians. So that was an action film. And that's very ambitious. Usually you start with a drama film, or you start with a comedy, something that doesn't have so many special effects and people getting shot. So, but, that's the thing, like no one's really said no to working on Assassin League because they know it's got action and it's
fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's a ton of fun.
So, Matt, sounds what you're saying is creativity for you is an adventure in learning.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah, that's really concise.
Can you sort of give me more? You've described some of the things that you would like to learn, but do you find enjoyment in learning these creative skills?
I do. I think, but I've also learned that it shouldn't be all about learning Ableton for music. You can get kind of way too stuck in those platforms, and you do kind of want to get to results. I think that's why people appreciate, some of the projects that I'm leading, is because, we're results oriented and we get things done that you can see or hear. So yeah, I inspired by Rick Rubin on his, process, and but I do find myself taking enjoyment in being very technical. I taught myself to color grade, and I'm actually just getting much, much better at that, across Premiere and DaVinci. And there's a very technical side where you're learning a lot, and it just reminds me of everything I did in school and in college and in the corporate workforce as part of that.
So I think the way I see it, I also see learning these different skills as an adventure. And I found this to be true is, as you learn one skill, for example, we both started as musicians. And I've learned that I had to figure out how to produce my own music, record it. And I think I've entered it during the plug-in revolution, which was, I want to say, early 2000s, where everything was essentially in a box. And I would go, first of all, I would actually find these magazines. I think there were Computer Music or some other ones. I would actually purchase them. You had to purchase them through Europe, so they were very expensive, like $50 per issue, actual physical. And I would just read their tutorials, and there was a tutorial, an hour tutorial on each one, each monthly release. and I would do the entire tutorial step by step with all these big time producers. I would actually give you a CD.
Yeah.
And you would put in the CD-ROM, and then watch this tutorial. So, and I found that, tell me if this is true for you as well, that the creativity is it's growth. As you have this adventure learning, you learn one skill. For example, I learned a music production. Then I needed music video for a band, for control process at that moment. And making a long story short, I fell in love with the process of making videos. So I thought, well, if I've learned the skills of producing music, I'm sure some of the same skills will apply here, and then basically open me up to learning the other skills. And that leads to another thing, how to edit on Premiere. And then the adventure leads you to other skills that you learn. And then it's would you say it's addictive?
Yeah. Kyle Del Santo once said that when I interviewed him, that it is an addiction. For him being on camera and inhabiting a character, for me it's bringing the story and the characters to life. Yeah, and definitely making songs is very addictive.
Tell me, what is creativity? What does that word mean to you?
For me, I would say it's original thinking, because it's not just the art. I also take it to kind of like the corporate side, or just being useful in life in general. There is a creative solution instead of an inefficient solution, or realizing that you don't really even need it.
You need what?
Need to do what you're doing.
Yeah, I agree with you. Creative process sometimes is learning that what you've been doing, let's say for a week or so, is not very effective.
Yeah, it's not very effective.
And that's also that's a skill that you learn in business. Sometimes you might spend an entire month to learn that what you've been producing is actually not effective, but you have to go through that lesson. You have to learn.
Yeah. It's a painful lesson. Yeah.
As we talked, creativity, we both agreed is a learning process, and I think that there is a sense of growth. Ideas sort of grow like mushroom, right? One on top of the other.
Yeah.
And you don't know where you're going to start. I mean, you think you know where you're going to start, but for example, in the writing process, you know where the film ought to start. But by the time you get to scheduling all your shots and doing your storyboard, things may change, right? Because as you enter the adventure of learning, you discover new creative ideas. Would you agree?
Yeah, of course. When I originally started this journey as just being a drummer, being in a band, being like a small scale YouTuber, someone just made videos,
content creator,
content creator, and just playing to covers, because I just really love music, and it's just very easy to do those two things. But it was a lot of learning. It was a big learning curve. I mean, I had no mics, I had no preamp, I had no 8-channel mic input, and I had to use my iPhone, and then I saved up for a very cheap Canon HD camera. But even that learning process, it was like I was making these videos at home, which was sustainable, instead of going out to a studio and hiring those people. It just it kind of grows off to these offshoots where it's like if I wasn't playing drums, then I wouldn't have the camera, and then I wouldn't have the microphone. If it wasn't for the microphone, there wouldn't be the music. If it wasn't for the music, there wouldn't be a music video. And if it wasn't for the music video, there wouldn't be a short film. Exactly. And if it wasn't for the short film, I wouldn't have written a script.
You have to learn through some of the mistakes and pain points through the creative process. They teach you to be a better creative artist, right? As you mentioned, you did not have all the gear, or the gear that you thought was good enough was not good enough, right?
Yeah. No, a lot of mistakes, especially for, needed more coverage, didn't know how much time things would take, not realizing that, how short, a sunrise is. And mistakes are part of that.
Part of it.
On the way there to that concrete goal.
Yes, and what I was gonna sort of expand on that is that what people see at the end usually is the final output, the creative output.
Yeah.
So you as a filmmaker present a film, and that's what people see. But people don't realize that those mistakes have to occur. With another guest, we spoke about this as well, is that human creativity is sloppy. It's a sloppy process.
Yeah.
And by sort of bouncing from one mistake to another, you will eventually end up at your end product. And as you know, as you write a film, if you write a character, a character never succeeds linearly, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Fails, it picks up, and gets up.
That's a
and
good way to put it.
So
yeah.
I think we as artists, we follow the same journey. Creativity is a sloppy process by which we learn, we grow. So when we talk about creativity and mistakes, we also have to mention limitations, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
as both of us being filmmakers and not have access to millions of dollars, we might have hundreds of dollars or maybe a couple of grand at most. So remember we were shooting on the roof and it started to rain?
yeah.
So that's a limitation. We could only be limited to one camera, very simple small lens on a shoulder rig that was covered with a foil, right? Because it was raining hard.
Yeah, it was heavy.
We were scheduled out that night. We couldn't say, oh well, we have to reshoot this at a different day and maybe in post-production put the rain. In addition, we couldn't really work with many lights. We had these little tube lights that were cut with no C-stands, none of that stuff. It's just, I remember I couldn't even see the camera, but I trusted my my guy Joe, who was basically running my camera through iPad, and he was focusing with the iPad.
Running focus, yeah.
So it was basically 3-4 people shooting the entire scene, and then we moved fast, and actors were in the moment. They were actually fighting in the rain, and it looked very natural. If this was done on a Hollywood budget, we would take maybe a little cut scene, then they would go back from different directions, change the lighting. I think the momentum and the flow of the fight would be lost.
It's the flow of the acting too. Even in something like a conversation, I do find when there's not so much time for between the setups, and it's just more communication with the actors and giving them more takes to warm up. That's if there's one thing as a director that I feel like I'm good at, and I want to keep investing in being good at, is getting the actors to really just loosen up and really be present. And some of that comes from not having this like chunk by chunk dialogue. I do feel like there's the lighting, and especially a lot of other beginning films, I feel like the lighting is just too bright. Like there's just too much effort. Too processed. It's too processed.
So we both direct. Although on your film, I am the DP, but often I direct my own projects.
No, of course.
So here's the problem with being a filmmaker, a director. You have to sort of balance many different things. You balance, obviously, the visual, the actual, what the camera is capturing. You also have to make the decisions on what the lighting is going to look in terms of the mood. You have to manage the actors, what the mood is of what they're saying, also on audio and so on. And I think we need to remember that what is the most important thing, and we have to identify it, and that is always the performance of the actor. So always do everything in servitude of the performance of the actor. If the actor, for example, I've heard other filmmakers say, we only use one camera. So we'll put the camera on, we have a dialogue. We'll reverse it, we'll give him an hour break while we switch the lighting, and we'll ask the actor to do the same performance again from a different angle because we only use one camera. Well, why not put 2 cameras if you're going to capture the other actor, or 3 cameras sometimes, whatever cameras you need, because you might capture a great performance. So you want to have as much coverage of that as possible. So I think our job as directors is first, prioritize the performance of the actor. Whether it's a dialogue, whether it's an action. Even we have to do it at the expense of lighting, because we can always, we can put a mask. When you all around, when you're the type of filmmaker that you have learned, as we've discussed, went through the adventure of learning different skills as a filmmaker, you will know on a set, it's like, well, I can cheat the lighting with a mask and Da Vinci or so on. You know that this is, I can make a decision not to put the light because it's going to take 20 minutes and the actor is in the right character. Let's not mess it. Let's move forward. And you have to make those decisions, right? So I think I'm a big proponent, if anybody is a filmmaker, learning to be a filmmaker, don't be siloed. Don't think in terms of, well, that's a job for my gaffer or my DP. No, learn all the skills. Know what the audio guy is. I have had discussions as I ran DP for you, but often I'm like, okay, we have no audio. So, okay, you know a little bit of audio, here's my device. I know everything about the audio. So, and I know what I can fix in audio, post-production. I know what I can, so I can listen and I'll make a decision. So those are things that are very, very important.
You have to make those trade-offs. We make them all the time.
I had an argument with a scriptwriter once. This person said that the writer decides everything in a script, and they make the decisions how the film is going to what the mood of the film is going to be. But the reality is it's just a blueprint, because once you get on a set, in your mind it worked perfectly, but then you're on a set, it's like, oh, this is not really working. So you have to make a decision, creative decision. Maybe change the way that this writer set up the scene. Maybe it's not a scene in a room. Maybe they're going to be outside, and maybe they're running for whatever reason. They're walking and talking, not sitting behind a table and discussing. So you're going to maybe throw the entire description of their scene.
So that was always kind of like the original avenues that you had to come up with this great script. And so therefore the writing is very important to the start of your story. But when you actually get on set, it's you actually want those miracle moments of, and
sloppy creativity.
It is a sloppy creativity. How, I think the only thing is you do want to also be prepared, especially if you're working with a big studio and you're going into the Warner Brothers executive room. Like they want to hire you knowing that you're completely prepared beforehand.
So the rain, actually, the mistake of the rain was one of the main feature of that short film, right?
The best part, yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, that is the money shot. Nothing beats the heavy rain,
Exactly.
That costs millions of dollars. And I do have a story. I did, on the first short film I made, I cut the entire scene, and because I tried to make it rain for real on set. And I bought these, they're for like spraying weeds, like for watering weeds. And you put the weed killer in it and those little tanks, and we were spraying it, but it just wasn't, we ran out of water, and it was just like a little mist, and it was one of the most painful things to do in the editing room because the special effects was not cutting it, because the rain, you have to get those little drips on the ground instead of just an overlay of rain. So,
but it was a learning process.
It was a learning process, yeah.
So we talked a lot about you being an artist, but I know that your daytime job is data scientist, correct? Yes. So tell me, how does the creativity that you've harnessed through the filmmaking process of this journey of learning different skills, how does it apply now to your daytime job as a data scientist?
Yeah, I've been taking a lot of pride in the way I actually design the dashboards. And now I'm calling it prompt-based reporting, which is really fascinating. Now it's almost like you're using ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini or Claude to actually query like databases that they're connected to of your own data lake, in addition to public information, and you're generating real-time dashboards. So you just type, what is the best performing creative? What is it year over year? Can you do a predictive analysis of the next 30 days? And then with engines like Claude, you can actually have it build a dashboard itself.
So what you're saying is that this AI system is sort of automated to extract data, but for you to choose the right combination of these platforms and put it into sort of a package that can tell us a story is a creative process?
Yeah, there is a creative piece of that instead of just the technical work of getting that dashboard created and the data to be connected. A data scientist kind of plays on data that's already, a data engineer or architect will organize the data so it's accurate. But as a data scientist, you're taking that and you're building like machine learning models. Of course, you're deduplicating information, you're cleaning up data in Python to make like a recommendation algorithm. On the creativity side, it's like you now can do a lot of those discipline and domains yourself in order to get to a better answer of what is making money.
Let's talk about the multi-million-dollar question that everyone has on their mind. You're a big proponent of AI and you use it daily. I tend to cautiously enter the world of AI. I see it as a sort of trial and error, and in my case, it's been a lot more errors than successes. But what's your opinion on AI, the world of AI expanding, and our role as creative human beings within that sort of world? Are you optimistic? Are you scared?
Now, of course, I believe it's better to make things on film and do it manually for real, but there are people who want to make sci-fi films, like a Star Wars film, but they will be able to access these tools in order to make their own film and have fun on that. So I do see that coming into play. That's going to affect our industry big time. A lot of us, who've trying to make everything for real and trying to give you that scope and scale of like a Star Wars universe or whatever kind of universe. And that's kind of, gets replaced with like a prompt. I think in a mindset of abundance is key in terms of AI because there are these really big problems. But the trick is if something is more intelligent than yourself and you're managing the intelligence, at what point does it start to manage you?
But here's the problem that I see. Intelligence is one thing, because intelligence could be a calculator made in 1975 that can do long multiplications that you and I could spend hours figuring out.
Yeah.
That's form of very specific intelligence, right? But it cannot tell you the difference between a cat and dog. So, and that would be the sort of the general intelligence what we talk about, right? But I think what we've discussed earlier is the problem with creativity is, or not a problem, but it's a feature, is that it's sloppy. It's based on mistakes. You're bouncing left and right. So I think this is where the AI will struggle with competing on a creative level because it does not rely on sloppy mistakes, experimentation, messing around things. Those are the human features that it potentially we as creative beings would still, I think, would be supreme at.
Well, not to interrupt, but it does
Go ahead.
by making trillions of mistakes. So those machine learning algorithms, that's what they do. They're like going through a maze, and it's millions of dead ends before it finds the right end.
So here's, I think, now let's sort of narrow more to, because we're both filmmakers, AI within the world of filmmaking. And I see it this way. I might be wrong. This is why we have a discussion about this. But I think what's going to happen is it's going to be we're going to be bombarded with, I think, very general type of, and we're already seeing
AI
this video. Yeah, AI slap left and right. These AIs are basically, they're learning, as you said, they're making billions of mistakes, but their choices are not often creative. They're just based on data.
Yeah.
So they're based on data. So you're going to get things that are not authentic or genuine. And I think what's going to happen is we're going to have several years of just bombardment of this kind of type of content, and there's going to be hopefully an appetite for authentic, true human creativity. Now, I don't think that's going to eliminate AI, but I think there's going to be some kind of a fusion. There's going to be a sort of a compromise between the creative artists who are going to learn how to use AI creatively. And I think, especially right now, the AI with prompts does not lend itself well to creativity. And you know this from any software that is made for, let's say, a consumer. Let's say the editing, photo editing software versus something that's made for professional, like Photoshop, versus something on your phone. What makes the difference is the features that allow the artist to make many adjustments.
Yeah.
So I think right now AI, where you write prompts, say, I want to have an actor walk on the Fifth Avenue in New York and be happy and around happy people on Fifth Avenue, New York. And you can sort of say, morning sun, la la la, you write prompts and you get whatever, you get slop. I think you can get AI slop. But I think where AI might be interesting and where I would love to mess with is, for example, if I film you walking in Pilsen on one of these streets, but I want to put you on the Fifth Avenue in New York. And now this is going to eliminate, there's going to
plane ticket.
But the divide between a big production company that has a budget to go on Fifth Avenue, bring 200 extra, fill close the street, and spend $200,000 for a day, versus me. Okay, now, Matt, you're gonna walk down here. I'm gonna film you. I want for you to express what I want you to express as an actor, for example. And I want you to direct, but I really want you to, for 10 seconds, walk on the Fifth Avenue and so on. And now, not to write prompts, but maybe there's gonna be something where there's gonna be some options where I can control where the sun enters. I can sort of control where the people are positioned around you, the extras. Well, the guy in the back over there, I want him to maybe scratching his head, right? The other guy, I want him to be rubbing his belly because he just burped or something. So that's what I mean, the creative choices where you can have with a mouse and have a lot of control, where I think right now with AI, you do not have a control. So it does not really lend itself to creativity, because I think especially the prompts. And I think because this is early on. But let's say in 5-6 years, there's going to be the AI where I can control, like right now I have a light above you and there's a nice key light over here. Let's say if we didn't have that and we just shot in something that was looking pretty bleak, and I can just say to AI, well, put a 1x4 kind of Aladdin light over there that will be positioned in there in that exact angle. And I, as a filmmaker, as a photographer, I know how this would work and I can experiment.
I think we're at the tail end of the parabola where things are exponential. And so where it's just.
Do you think we're going to get to the point that I just described, the kind of AI that we described?
I do. I really do.
Where it's going to lend to creativity, right? Because right now it does not.
Well, you're going to be able to make, if you want that shot in Times Square, and it's just not going to happen. No one's going to get, you're just not going to be able to get 10,000 extras or whatever it is, or like for Ben-Hur. You're going to be able to do that as just one person. So I think doing things for real, that's kind of where Christopher Nolan and probably even Sean Baker is going to stick down that path. And I would like to be on that path too. I feel like I was born in like a digital era. So this, Assassin League, the feature film, is an unapologetically digital film because we're also using a 360 camera. And that's a huge feature of this film is the trippy 360 nature of capturing everything that's up, down, and all around. But yeah, so it's making a conscious choice as a human being to do things like make the meal organic and make it from scratch.
So that's what I'm talking about. The AI has to become more organic to the artist to make choices.
Yeah.
Like, for example, where the painter could choose hues and would color oils and mix to create a painting. Now, for example, the digital creative artists can choose hues and colors in Photoshop. They're not writing prompts and things like that. So I think we're in the transition right now. It's not that creative tool. It's a consumer tool. Just like a tool, let's say, in your phone to edit photos, and you've got very limited options. Or, for example, on iPhone, to take a photo on iPhone, I couldn't figure out where can I enter the white balance, change the white balance. You can't. It doesn't even exist on iPhone. But most iPhone people who shoot don't even know what white balance is. And those are sometimes creative choices, right, that you can make. So I think for AI to be truly a tool for creatives, it will probably have to morph and give us many, many more options, right? And I think that's a path that unfortunately is going to happen. But here's where I think I'm going to draw the line, is actors and acting. Because your performance, you know that a performance is a very organic, creatively sloppy sort of an act. That even if you have a very, very well-trained actor, and I've worked with some extremely well-trained actors, theater actors. You ask them to perform the same thing again, and they'll probably get the essence of it, but there's always going to be things a little bit off, and that's what makes it organic. That's what makes it
special. And that's what makes it human and
that's what makes any AI that you see when you have faces and people act, and it just makes it so most people are going to look like it's going to be great for Instagram and TikTok.
But haven't you been swept away in like an animation? The beauty of the animation and in getting into that story and that character who's going through that. And the nice thing about animation is that truly you can do visualize anything. So that is the key question that probably everybody's talking about is I'm kind of on this position of it is getting more and more accurate because it's just pixels on a screen. And I think a lot of people are going to really love that, whether they augment it with the actor's original performances or not. I think that there's a significant audience of people who are going to watch that. And so that's the issue, is that competition expands the market. I think creativity, if I could modify my answer, it's also a spiritual component that's unique to human beings. And I think, we can tap into some more creative or spiritual powers that we have that machines can't.
And I think you're right. Some of the work that's going to be more authentic and genuine, it'll always find its place. I think that there's going to be always a desire for, even in the future, where if the AI is able to do essentially everything with the film.
All pixels.
All pixels, recreate anything it wants. I think there's going to be something about, there's always going to be a need or a desire for this authentic performances and real footage. I mean, look at how slowly film industry moves. I mean, we're in a digital era for the last, 30 years? And I think there's still a lot of filmmakers that choose to shoot with film. And essentially what people don't realize, in the film, it essentially is going to end up in digital format anyways.
Yes, they're all transcribing the film.
Nobody's going to edit,
digital, and then back to tape.
Nobody's going to. Nobody's actually going to cut film in the editing room. They're going to take the footage that was shot on film, convert it into digital, then send it to an editor that's going to edit on Premiere or DaVinci and so on, and take it from there. So a lot of tools that we're actually currently using right now, for example, camera, now tracks my eye. So if I walk away over here, well, it's still tracking Matt, but if I click on me,
it's tracking me.
Let's have some fun with this. See, right now,
You're
tracking
still in
me,
focus.
so
Yeah.
I can walk over here. I'm still in focus. Now, is this an AI?
I would say that's actually an algorithm, a very sophisticated one. But is it truly learning and adapting? No, probably not.
No. It has learned what the human eye is.
It didn't learn that your intention, it doesn't know what your intention that first time was to stay on you, but it went to
Exactly.
me.
So see, this is the human.
That's
human
the human.
correction.
And that's what might make. That might be the key question to a lot of these things we've been talking about. It's the human intention, you know.
Exactly.
And does it? But at what point does it deserve to be the machine's intention? If the machine is doing all the work.
Yes. So right now, a lot of these AI tools, like the AI trick and so on, they're being advertised, are not really true AI. They're just algorithms.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's just such a buzzword that you put
everyone
AI
uses it,
into everything, then people will buy it.
And people, I think, are so afraid of this AI tools, but people don't realize, essentially, things were already there. It's just a continuum of tools being introduced.
Yeah.
Right? So I think we're going to see the same thing. There's always going to be value placed on human intention and creativity.
Yeah, it's a parallel path. I mean, you're going to have the next Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire at the same time as someone making original Spider-Man movie. So and everything in between. I think that especially the new generation, I think is going to be very excited, you know, when they're 9 years old to just prompt engineer their own film because they can't, you know, even be allowed to go outside at night, you know, to film something. So I think it's a bunch of parallel paths, but hopefully it's not saturating the market. The issue is what content is better and performs better. Better is very subjective.
Yes, exactly.
So that's a human subjective thing. That Oppenheimer is a better film than the AI slop, or whatever it is. But the AI slop might be based on something very popular, like One Piece or something, and it just blows up.
Let me ask you this. Where do you see the future of independent filmmaking? We understand that Nolan's and Jordan Peele and these guys are always going to make money. They have unlimited budgets. But given this AI and the future of technology, where do you think, are you optimistic about independent filmmaking?
I am, but you have choices. You have even more choices and you have more tools at your disposal. And I think that Jordan Peele or Nolan would see it the same way, as additional tools, and you can kind of choose your path. But you also have to be realistic. If you don't have the budget to make something on tape, you can make it digitally. If you don't have the budget to make something digitally, maybe you could do something clever with AI. I'm optimistic and bright about the future because I think we're going to have our cake and eat it too, in terms of there's going to be a big audience that wants the Star Wars with the original trilogy, and they're going to be able to generate that movie, or fans will be able to generate that movie. And then there's people who are going to go kind of more down just the traditional filmmaking path because they're worth learning and they're worth respecting, and they're what kind of trained the models in the first place.
Well, thank you for watching. And Matt, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was so great.
Looking forward to filming more fight scenes.
Absolutely, let's do it.